my students have made costumes and masks for Carnival, or they've taken neat photographs that we've used for our photo silkscreen project. So keep in mind that's one of the big events for February and March in Italy, all of Italy, most of Europe actually. Silkscreen has a long history, a very long history. It started out with just stencil making, and gradually they added a piece of silk to a frame with a cut stencil. And this was done in China in the year of 900 in the Song dynasty. And then not too long later, Japan got interested in it because it was a nearby country. And Japan developed it even further. And they used it to decorate kimonos and textiles. And they made very, very intricate cutout stencils. And the stencils were weak and they needed some support. So putting the silk with it, attaching the stencil to the silk, made it much stronger and they could use it easier. And so they developed the process silkscreen. And that's why it's called silkscreen, because they use the silk to hold the stencil together. Nowadays, with the silkscreen, it's not silk anymore, it's nylon, because things have evolved and changed. After it was in Japan, in the 18th century, it was brought to Europe as a technique for decorating textiles or borders and things like that. In the 30s, it started to be used more for art. I mean, I call the textiles art anyway, but art like contemporary art and things. But it really got a good start, the best start, in the 60s with the pop art movement. Andy Warhol especially developed it to the kind of silkscreen that we do for art nowadays. Andy Warhol, Roy Lichtenstein, Rauschenberg, they all did some screen printing. It was very popular then. And that's when the photo emulsion, which was done earlier in the century, but they didn't have it really developed fully yet, the photo emulsion process, until much later, pretty much when Andy Warhol started doing it in the 60s is when they finally got it sort of down to a real system. It was used industrially first, and then they turned it to art uses after that. And now it's such an amazing, flexible medium that you can do so many, many different things with it. You can do graphic design, you can do textile design, you can do prints, you can do all T-shirts, bags, every commercial posters, signs, everything can be done with screen printing. It's really, really, really flexible. So no matter what art area you're interested in, I'm sure there's one part of screen printing that you're going to like because it's really, really a flexible medium. And it's also relatively fast. At first, it takes you a little while to prepare the stencils and to get it on the screen. But once this screen is made, the printing is relatively quick, and you can make many copies, and that's what makes it so popular today and so useful as a technique. For your silk screen printing class, you're going to be using the frames that we have in the studio. These are professional silk screening frames. And first I'm going to give you this size here, the one with the lettering, Cinema Paradiso. And then if you do a larger project like a textile, I'll probably give you this next size, this slightly larger size. They are not silk, it's nylon, a special nylon, because now we have photo emulsion, and photo emulsion is a little bit too hard on real silk. But we used to use real silk for the screens a long time ago. So now they use nylon, special nylon that takes the photo emulsion well. We do our own coating of the screens. We put our own emulsion on. I have a dark room. We coat the screens ourselves with photo emulsion, Diazo photo emulsion. And when this photo emulsion is dry, we place our designs on the screen, on the back side of the screen, actually, this side of the screen. We place the design here. We put it in a vacuum table, and the vacuum table sucks the designs down to the screen. The designs are on acetate, and the design is sucked down onto the screen. And the big photo light exposure unit goes on and exposes the emulsion with whatever you drew on the acetate. And when you wash the acetate under slightly warm water, just warm water, the design sort of magically appears. Really, it's like magic. Everybody goes, wow! And the image starts to appear. And after about 2 minutes, the extra part washes away, where these white areas are, washes away. And that's the part that's open, and that's the part where your ink will pass through and color your paper or your fabric. And then we print from this side is the side we print from when we pull the squeegee across. And if you're doing more than one color, this is a small poster, so we put 4 colors on one screen in this case. So this is the background, this is the lettering, and these are 2 other colors that go into that little poster. With a textile, I usually use the entire screen per color, so I won't let you do too many colors if you're doing a textile because it takes a lot of screens. But this one and this one go together. This is sort of the background color, and this one is the outline color. And the far one is also, and the far one over there are also textile designs. And this is a little poster. So, we're going to do all together for the class. We're going to start with a small print like this one so that you can learn the basic process without getting too complicated beyond what you're able to do. So we're going to start out sort of small to begin with this size. Then for the second project, after you've got the experience, you know how to print, you know how to cut the screens, you know how to expose them, you know how to prepare your drawing, then you can do a more involved project for the second one. And the third project, we're going to all do together something with a photograph, because now we can do that with photographs. Let me find a nice photograph here. Does this one show? This is like a student's photograph. She took a picture of her mother and something with a cloud, and we put the 2 images together for this print. To prepare our images, the first 2 projects we're going to do hand drawing projects. The third one we're going to do with photo emulsion or something with the computer. The first 2 we're going to do hand, because it's really important that we don't skip the hand drawing stencils so that you fully understand this process and how it originated and how it works. So this is a textile print that has 3 colors. So one color is on this sheet. It's probably part of these are butterflies or moths, I guess. It has 3 colors, so one sheet for each color. And I will have special either acetate or tracing paper and special inks that we draw these acetates with, because it has to be light resistant for exposing the screen. It can't just be any old marker. So we're going to do hand drawing ones, and then sometimes we can also make use of photocopies, and actually sometimes the real object. In this case, this person made a border for a textile. She has a photocopy of an antique textile, and then she has a real piece of lace on top of that. And we exposed the whole thing in the darkroom on one of the screens. And the texture of the lace actually came out perfectly on the screen. So when you start to see all these possibilities, you start thinking, wow, I can do this, this, and that. And there's tons of things you can do, really tons of things. So I got a lot of examples here on the table. Maybe I can just show one at a time. This one is an example of our third project, okay, the photograph one. This one would be an example of the first project. With the we're going to do 4 colors, and this is an image of her apartment, the student's apartment. If you're good at pen and ink works beautifully with screen printing. So this student, young man, he was very good with pen and ink and cross-hatching and stippling, and it shows up beautifully with screen printing. So if you're good at that, use it, because it really works well with screen printing. So this is a still life that this student made. This one is an example of the third project. It's her self-portrait, Andy Warhol style, with photo emulsion. This is the first project, but it's her self-portrait too, and it's a drawing one where she drew it. This is an example of the third project with the photo emulsion, and a photograph of a fruit market in Venice. This is another technique. We might do this actually the first week before we even make our own imagery. The very simplest kind of silk screen is just taking some pieces of newspaper, even newsprint, and just cutting something out and laying it under the screen. And the ink, when you pass the ink across, the pieces of paper will stick to the screen, and you can print for about an hour with that simple stencil. So we're going to try that just for fun, just for play. It doesn't have to be anything serious, just to learn how to pull a squeegee, basically. And it's fun. And all you need is a piece of newsprint. And that's how this was made.